Thomas.
Yes, ma'am. The invocation today will be by Pastor John Woodrow, of the United Methodist Church, Gulfview United Methodist Church.
Mr. Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen, let us pray. Gracious God, this is the time of the year that we often consider our blessings and express our gratitude. Lord, we ask that you make our hearts truly grateful for all you've given us, for this wonderful community, for the very neighbors that we have, the visitors we get to cherish. Lord, we ask that you make us truly grateful for our country and our freedom. We thank you, Lord, for the veterans who have put on the uniforms and gone forward. Lord God, we thank you for our emergency workers. And as we say our Pledge of Allegiance tonight, Lord, we ask that you truly be involved in the direction of our country. Guide us, Lord. Help us. And in all things we do, let us be truly grateful for all the men and women in uniform. In your name we pray. Amen.
The pledge tonight will be led by Councilman Solis.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The pledge today means a lot of different things to a lot of different people watching the news, but it's still the greatest place to be that I know of. Approval of the regular minutes of 10/13 and October the 27th.
Actually, just October 27th is before you.
I was going to approve them anyway.
Not
Okay.
yet.
10/13 is not ready?
Not ready yet.
All right. Need a motion to approve the minutes of October the 27th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Clerk?
Councilman Solis?
Yes.
Councilman Riekert?
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange?
Yes.
Councilman Chester?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. All right. The approval of the agenda. Any additions or deletions?
Mayor, I do have several small changes, if I may.
Yes, sir.
First off, the Boys and Girls Club, the young man that was supposed to receive the award is sick, so we will send him the award. Secondarily, if we could add an Ironman presentation, they would like to present a check to the police department. And then lastly, if we could remove item number 5, we found out that we really didn't need to do that. It was already in the budget, and we already had a continuing contract
From the regular agenda.
from
On
the
the
regular
regular
agenda.
agenda,
Yeah,
sure.
regular agenda.
All right. And instead of sending in the, why don't you check and see if he can come?
Yeah, can he come back?
Certainly.
Sure. Okay.
We'd
Suit
be happy to
everybody.
do
yeah.
More
that.
than one, you know.
Yeah.
We could do 2 on the next meeting.
Yes.
That would be great.
We're
Okay.
capable of that. All right, so next would be, Ben, are you here tonight? Yes, sir. Comments about the Iron Man.
While he's coming up, Your Honor, may I say I'd like to, if we, with your permission, move item 5 from the consent agenda to the regular agenda,
Yes,
please?
sir. We'll do that as the first item on the regular agenda.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me, Ben.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and councilmen and women, residents throughout our community. I just wanted to, it's a tough thing to do coming right after the event because everything's very fresh in everyone's mind. So I'd like to thank the entire community for the support that we continue to have. And rest assured, any issues or any complaints and problems, we address them immediately. We realize it's a work in progress. There's a lot of moving parts. We brief the athletes as much as we can to really, get them to adhere to our rules and regulations. We have a high standard we keep. Still, I've fielded a lot of complaints this week from athletes and residents alike. I address every one of them and try and fix it, and then rest assured I'm going to address and keep continuing to address. A few things we did have, what you may not know, is we had 71 countries represented this year. All 50 states and Puerto Rico were there. We had 3,100 athletes sign up with about 2,600 athletes participating. It was a fantastic day. We needed it. The weather was perfect. I
It was
can't thank,
windy.
ma'am.
It was windy.
It was a little windy. The wind is just part of being in Florida, and flat courses aren't so easy. But this event can't continue without the help and support from the community and the residents and the volunteers we have. It's an honor to be part of it. It's a pleasure to be part of it. I'm very proud of our community, and I hope I represent it well enough and for our standard of living. The residents, I know we have issues all the time that we can fix anything. We really can address it, and I'd just like to make it good for everyone as far as that goes. The other thing is we made an announcement at our banquet, which we have joined forces with the Gulf Coast Triathlon, which was suffering and going down a little bit, and Ironman has now stepped in. It was not a takeover; it was an agreement, and we hope to have another great event back to where we were in the heydays. In a day, we've signed up almost 400 people, so that's very encouraging. We will go through the courses with the commission and all the people involved, all the agencies, to make sure we have the best course available. That's it. I have one presentation. We can't do this without volunteers, without the community support. Most certainly we can't do it without law enforcement every day. But during our event, they do an outstanding job to get the athletes through safely and get the cars through as quick as possible, without jeopardizing anybody's safety. So if the chief would step up, I'd like a presentation on behalf of Ironman. Chief undoubtedly can't do anything in this town without the police force, and our event is very important. We were able to, within our foundation in the Subway Firehouse, if anybody didn't know, the police department received somewhere in the neighborhood of $18,000 for 2 ATVs. The Panama City Beach Fire Department received, I think about $7,000 for some ballistic uniforms or vests, and then the city received another $15,000 for some repeaters and some other very, very needed equipment. So that we're very proud to be part with Firehouse Subs, and on behalf of Ironman and the Ironman Foundation, for the traffic control that the police force helps us with, a $4,000 donation to the Kids and Cops. Hopefully
Don't give
that'll
that
help
to
out.
him.
I'm sorry.
Don't give that to him. He's going on vacation.
I wish I was.
Sir, I can't thank you enough. Everybody. It takes a village, and we really do live in a village. It's a smaller community than most people think. I just want to thank you on behalf of Ironman, the Ironman staff, and all the volunteers and athletes who just, the compliments we get here. They love this race. This race is by far one of the best we have in the country, and we're 18 years old, and we're moving forward. Thank you very much.
Is the triathlon going to stay a half marathon, a triathlon, or is it going to a full?
The other one, sir, the
Yes.
Gulf Coast,
Gulf Coast.
that maintains a 70.3. That's a half distance race.
Okay.
Ben, is it gonna be a qualifier for any of the Ironman?
There's 50 qualifying slots to the World Championships in Chattanooga this year.
Okay, so it used to be a qualifier for Kona.
It was back
Yeah.
way early, yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. It's not for the full distance Kona race, but World Championships are in Chattanooga, and it travels every year, so it goes to a different location.
And at the event the other night, I know you've given out a lot of money here at the beach, but there was $80-something thousand.
Total $80,000
Donations.
between the Firehouse Foundation, the Ironman Foundation. That was the 3 larger donations. Parks and Recs are receiving a donation as well, and the Boardwalk Beach Resort added to that. I'm very proud to be part of that. And the thing is, the athletes are the ones that contribute to all this donations. The foundation is based on athletes' donations and entry fees. So
And no significant injuries, correct?
we had a couple. We have a French gentleman that's still with us. He's in the hospital, and we're looking after him. But no, there weren't. We address it and we'll fix it, we'll make it better for everyone.
I think next year it may be something that could be a little easier when you factor in the loop road. We make it work something in there that's,
Absolutely.
the only complaint I get, the main complaint I get, not the only one, but the main complaint is the intersection at Highway 79. That is a significant inconvenience for people.
It's not like there's enough signage though. I
Yeah.
mean, for God's sake, there's signage for
Sure.
10 days before it. So,
Yeah.
What some
But
people
maybe
may
that'll
not.
help.
yeah.
We have a traffic impact statement, a guide that goes out to selected areas within the community that's along the bike course that gives a good idea of when the high or low traffic is gonna be.
Sure.
We'll do anything,
Sure.
we'll try to improve, but, I just wanna thank the community and the commission and the mayor and everybody and their staff for everything. One more thing is, the challenges we face just pop up. And 2 days before the event, I was riding down the road and I see a construction site, and for past experience, I've had some issues, and I asked our staff to check with the site, and it was the Hampton Inn. Barry and Justin in the back, the Robbins and Morton group that's pouring concrete race morning. And the size of our community and the things we can do at a minute's notice, we worked through the city manager's office, worked with the construction guys, and they were able to pour concrete. I hope your complaints weren't too many.
Wasn't bad at all.
That they poured at 2 o'clock in the morning so we could have a race at 7. Unbeknownst to us, they couldn't change anything, but it goes to that extent. They realized how important it was to the community. And a gentleman from Comcast as well, who were having issues with internet, and that guy clearly just said it's important to the community, and he was willing to do what it took. So I won't take any more of your time, but thank you so much for everybody's support. And if there's anything, I am available anytime.
Thank you, Ben.
I've given my phone number out too much.
Mayor, can I just explain where this goes real quick? Do you mind if I explain where this goes real quick? This donation goes to our cops and kids, which helps us with holiday helpers. Last year, Thanksgiving, we gave food baskets on Thanksgiving to 165 families, and at Christmas, it was like 165 families and 215 kids we bought Christmas presents for. So this is a big donation that helps us.
Right.
And also on a side note, today's the Marine Corps' birthday. Happy birthday, Lieutenant Telementos. And also, one last thing, you're a veteran. For all the veterans that served, tomorrow's Veterans Day. Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. Next item is public comments. This is limited to 3 minutes. Consent and regular agenda items only. If you'd come forward and give your name and address and get at it. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Thompson would like to talk about Uber.
Bernie Thompson, 8317 Front Beach Road. I want to follow up on what the chief said. My daughters had a Veterans Day celebration at their school today, and it was wonderful, and it is the Marines' birthday today. And I believe, Councilman Solis, I believe your brother served in the U.S. Marines?
Yes, sir.
Please extend my thank you, because that's a level above and beyond what the rest of us did. I was an Air Force captain. Mr. Mayor, I believe you served as well, so happy Veterans Day, sir. And I know Councilman Rickard, you did, so I salute you as well.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else on the council? Did you, ma'am? I had a feeling, Dee, you just carry yourself that way, so thank you very much. With regard to Uber, my buddy Justin is here, and I know that we'll disagree on this, and that's okay. We agree on most things, but we may disagree on this. I'd like to, rather than make the case, I would like to ask you to consider what consumers want. It's often the consumers are left out of this. We come up with these arguments, you know, the other cities are doing this, and what about these criminals that did this, and maybe we have to level the playing field so that Uber drivers have to jump over the same obstacle course that Justin and his team have to jump over. Well, perhaps we can lower the obstacle course and make it easier and less painful to do business in Bay County. And I guess what I'm asking is, why don't you all ask the people what they want? And if an overwhelming number of consumers say, we really would like it, please weigh that. Because one thing that's been going on in Panama City Beach is it's become more difficult for people who are responsible to be responsible. We can't park our cars overnight because of a problem we had at Walmart. We all know why that is. But when you don't allow anybody to park their car overnight after going to a bar and maybe having one too many drinks because of what they did at Walmart, that's punishing the rest of us for some other people's bad behavior. So please make it easier for people to be responsible, make it safer for people to make good decisions, and please ask consumers what they would like. Thank you very much.
Next.
Justin Wilson.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Justin Wilson. I'm at 5218 Beach Drive, and I'd like to speak about Uber, but mainly what I would like to speak about most is our rules that we have for taxis. You know, first off, Uber, just for people that don't know, Uber was never banned from Bay County or Panama City or Panama City Beach. It's just they refuse to follow any of our rules, and this is something they do all over the world. They try to basically overstep any rule that they can and ask for forgiveness later, kind of deal. But I'd like to go over the rules that we have and then just explain why they're in place. I don't know, I'm pretty sure everybody got the handout that I gave. First off, we do a criminal background check. That's in basically all these rules go through the police department, so they know. Uber claims to do their in-house background checks, but they were sued by several cities, including LA, San Francisco, and Atlanta for misleading the public about their background checks. NBC did a special where they took a felon who had been a burglar, had drug charges, and had assaulted somebody. She was still on probation and had the ankle bracelet, but she ended up passing Uber's background check, and she was able to drive for Uber. They also do a 3-year background on the driving record. There's been several cases where Uber, they claim to do these background checks, but it turned out after they got into accidents, in one case killing a 6-year-old girl, that just prior to that, the driver of that car had been charged with a reckless driving charge. We do, in the city and on the beach, we do physicals. You know, I think that's pretty obvious why we do that. You know, a lot of people that aren't physically fit kind of gravitate towards cab driving because, you know, they can't swing a hammer or whatever. They might have health problems, and that's fine, but we need to at least make sure that they're not, you know, fixing to have a heart attack when they get behind the wheel. There's been several examples of Uber drivers that had heart attacks. One case I read about, the customer wanted to reach out to Uber and explain to them, you know, that they should do physicals and wanted them to know about what happened with their driver. But a majority of people that have ever tried to reach out to Uber find that they're almost impossible to reach out to. They don't have like a customer service line. We do drug screens, and you know, there's been several cases where people reported their Uber driver was obviously on drugs. There's been a lot of cases where Uber drivers were.
Sorry.
3 minutes already?
I got a new phone. I don't know how to work it.
Was that 3 minutes already?
It was 3 minutes.
All right. Well, I basically only got through about 1/3 of the rules, but Uber really doesn't want to follow any of them, including the. You know, obviously they don't want to put decals on the car. That would mess up their whole way of doing things. But there's a reason for that too. I've got a whole page of.
Okay, so we've read your stuff, so
Okay.
you just
Okay.
wrap it up.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to give you this packet. It's a list of several assaults. I mean, it's plumb full of all different cases, murders, and you name it. And all these crimes, 90% of them could have been avoided if they would just follow guidelines of the local government.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Next. Anybody in the audience have anything? Thank you very much. On to the consent agenda, minus item number 5. Madam Clerk.
Minus item number 5?
Yes, ma'am, it will be added to the regular agenda.
First item.
Wasn't that correct, ma'am? Sir?
Okay.
Yes.
Item number 1, Veterans Day Proclamation, a proclamation honoring November 11th, 2016 as Veterans Day in Panama City Beach. Item 2, National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day Proclamation, a proclamation designating December 7th, 2016 as National Pearl Harbor Day, Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, with the flags being lowered to half-staff on that day. Item 3, Resolution 1719, Bid Award West Bay Ground Storage Tank Repainting, a resolution of the City of Panama City Beach, Florida, approving agreement with the Anderson and Associates Construction and Company in the amount of $107,067 for the repainting of West Bay Ground Storage Tank. Resolution 1720, Bid Award Wastewater Treatment Facility Influence Screens 2 and 3 replacement, a resolution of the City of Panama City Beach, Florida, approving agreement with West Tech Engineering, Inc. in the amount of $254,185.50 for the purchase of 3 influence screens for the wastewater treatment facility. Item 6, Resolution 17-22, Bid Award Longleaf Wiregrass Pine Seedlings Planting, a resolution of the City of Panama City Beach, Florida, approving agreement with the Panhandle Forestry Services, Inc. in the amount of $51,374 for the hand planting of longleaf pine and wiregrass seedling at the Conservation Park. Resolution 17-25, New Year's Eve Street Party Ball Drop and Road Closures. A resolution of the City of Panama City Beach related to the New Year's Eve street party event authorizing various road closures within Pier Park on December 30th and December 31st, 2016 for the event's street party and ball drop, and providing an immediately effective date. Item 8, Resolution 17-28, GAC Construction Site Road Closure. A resolution of the City of Panama City Beach, Florida related to the unloading onto construction site of Front Beach Road by GAC Contractors, Inc., authorizing temporary usage of Front Beach Road from the intersection at Gardenia Street to the intersection at Laurel Court during the hours of 2:30 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. on Saturday, November 13th, 2016.
That is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, could we do one thing, if you don't mind? Could we actually have the proclamation for Veterans Day read? I think it's important just to actually read the whole proclamation.
Absolutely. If you have it here. Have you got it there?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I don't
She doesn't
have
have
it.
it over here. I was wondering if you had it. Where is it in the packet?
It should be item 2. No, I'm sorry.
I've got it.
Should be item 1.
Would you like me to read it in full?
Please.
Yes, please.
Whereas 75 years ago, more than 2,400 Americans lost their lives in a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. On National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, we think of those who died on December 7, 1941, and honor those who sacrificed in defense of our homeland and liberty during World War II. And whereas on that peaceful Sunday morning, our country suffered a vicious, unprovoked attack that changed the course of history. Though our Pacific fleet was battered, broken, and nearly destroyed, our citizens were inspired by the great acts of heroism from those who survived and from those who did not. And whereas, after the devastating attacks on Pearl Harbor, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared, "We are going to win the war, and we are going to win the peace that follows." From this attack grew the steadfast resolve that has made America the defender of freedom around the world. In the 21st century, freedom is again under attack, and young Americans have stepped forward to serve in a global war on terror that will secure our liberty and determine the destiny of millions around the world. These patriots are protecting our country and our way of life by upholding the tradition of honor, bravery, and integrity demonstrated by that generation that fought for our nation in World War II. And whereas, like generations before, we will answer history's call with confidence, confront threats to our way of life, and build a more peaceful world for our children and grandchildren. Today, as we defend our nation's ideals, we pay special tribute to those who lost their lives at Pearl Harbor, honor our veterans of World War II, and celebrate the liberty that makes America a lasting symbol of hope to the world. Now, therefore, Mike Thomas, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Panama City Beach, proclaim December 7, 2016 as National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day and encourage all Americans to observe this solemn occasion with appropriate ceremonies and activities. I urge everyone to fly the flag of our nation at half-staff this December 7th in honor of those who died as a result of their service at Pearl Harbor.
May I have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Solis?
Yes.
Councilman Riegert?
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange?
Yes.
Councilman Chester?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. We have item number 5 from the consent agenda, which is
Resolution 1721.
the Christmas parade road closure. Was there anything specifically?
My concern, and the same concern for item 7, I guess I should have asked the same question, has been the concern and is growing concern on this panel, I think, of using the safety barriers to keep the crowd and the spectators out of harm's way as the parades go by. Now, in past events, I'm told our friends at the TDC have paid to get these very heavy and cumbersome barriers set up and removed at the end of the event, and that's not inexpensive. I don't expect our good friends at the Optimus Club, who are one of the finest civic clubs out here, one of the 2 best, and I don't want to burden them with a new expense, but I do. And I am concerned that the safety factor of small children dashing out to pick up a piece of candy in front of a moving truck or vehicle or float and so forth. So my question, and I'm springing this on the chief and city manager, is how many of, I know we're adding, every year we're adding barriers to our collection, but does anyone know how many of those barriers and where they will be put up for the Christmas parade and frankly for all parades? Can we be assured that that is something that's not going unnoticed and that we are making progress with that? Because my concern is, first of all, the safety of the people watching the parade, and that's all our concern, no doubt about that. That goes without saying, as well as the fact that the city's responsible for those streets and those sidewalks because they belong to the city, those streets in Pier Park.
I can tell you that there are barricades available. I can tell you that this parade is predominantly smaller vehicles, not floats. I can tell you that they do have strict regulations on having extra wheel walkers for the larger vehicles. That I see here that there's something with a flatbed truck for a church group and tow behind trailer for the football team. Those will have extra wheel walkers. They will be using the barricades to close off the road, but
To close off the road.
But specifically barriers within the road, I am not aware of any that this particular parade is utilizing because it has no floats. When the floats are provided, we have had a diagram and a plan that the TDC has provided, and they have been, installed the barriers in strategic locations. But for this particular parade, because it is predominantly cars, they don't see the floats as a big item for them. But it's also because they also don't have the funds to put these out. But those barricades are available for use.
At this particular, and I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just disagreeing. That is not so. Anyone who wants to be in the Optimus Club Christmas Parade in Panama City Beach, anyone who wants to be in it, if you're a carpenter and you want to advertise that you're a carpenter and you want to decorate your truck and be in the parade, anyone can be in the parade. So there are, maybe there are not as many floats, but there are tow trucks, there are garbage trucks, there are fire trucks, but so my point being that the wheel walker situation. In the case of, I have a retired fire truck and we had it full of Cub Scouts and we were having a grand time. We had to put the front wheel walker, one on each wheel, walks to make sure safety is maintained and nobody gets near that wheel. We took the people from the back wheels and moved them up front, so we had two on each front wheel, and they were hands-on, having to push the people and children out of the way. So that doesn't work. And now back to our friends at the Optimus Club, and this is not, I'm not chastising Mario at all whatsoever. I'm just saying that doesn't work. I mean, we pushed them back in, and with their parents standing behind them, I might add. I mean, you kind of want to go over there and shake the parents and say, "Do you see what's going on here?" Again, the Optimus Club. I mean, those things those things don't get put up, taken down after the event, and stored inexpensively, I'm sure. So I don't have a solution to a problem that I'm bringing up, except maybe our friends at the TDC, since this is promoting bringing people down for the Christmas season, might consider springing for the cost of putting those barriers up for this particular parade that is handled by the Optimus Club and at no expense to anyone, and they work very hard to do that. This would be a new expense, but truly, I mean, we'll get video out of vehicles if you want to, but it's a problem. Go out there and look at it. And the wheel walker thing, we've done it in all kinds of parades, and if they're throwing candy or beads, it doesn't work. Those little kids see a piece of candy out there and they go for it. And if there's a barrier and they can't do that, perhaps if people are walking along and handing them candy there, and some of the wheel walkers will pick up candy that doesn't make it to the other side of the barriers and pick it up and take it and carry it. So everyone gets my point. Thank you for your patience with this, but I'm just very concerned. I know Councilman Chester is a member of the Optimus Club, and others who are here. Certainly the Bracks is back there, and you know, no one is questioning them, and no one wants to burden them with an expense. It would be my suggestion that we ask our friends at the TDC if they would sponsor putting these up for the safety of the community and the people that it's bringing in from other cities, because it's the Christmas season. Is there a question in there? You're looking for one, and I don't know that there is.
If the council wishes on parades to mandate that there are bike barriers, you can mandate that, and then the parades will have to figure out how to utilize the bike barriers.
Well, I think it needs a
the tools
little.
that I have are being utilized.
Well, but I think that needs a little closer look, and I will say, and Mr. Ponick and the Parks and Rec folks who handle the tournaments, softball tournaments coming in, they have a welcoming parade, and
strictly people walking that parade. It's my understanding of that parade is it's the teams walking.
Yes, and the people who are the audience for that parade, the crowd, is generally the families of these young kids who are coming in. So to mandate that they have to have these barriers, I think
you can mandate any parade that has vehicles has to have barriers. I mean, you
but
can
this
mandate it any which way that you'd like.
Well, I know. All I'm saying is I don't think we can decide all this right now, but the Christmas parade is coming up, and I think that's the one we need to decide. We can talk about the softball tournaments later, because they're, you know, and they have what is a vehicle? I mean, they have four-wheelers. They have a vehicle that leads the parade. I'm most concerned with item 5 on the consent agenda, which is saying it's fine that we have the Christmas parade, and that we done enough to make sure that these kids are safe.
Can we talk with TDC? I'm on it. I'll take it to them and see. That's all I can do.
And do we have any idea? I mean, I've asked this before and gotten a number, and I'm sorry I don't remember it, about how many barriers we actually have between the TDC, the city, and our friends at Ironman. I'm sure
they rent.
Huh?
They rent theirs.
Okay. But doesn't Gulf Coast Triathlon own some of those barriers?
We do have some.
You do have some, but I mean, there are 3 or 4 people who are organizations that own these. You know, Pier Park TDC, the city has some. Just how many do we actually have? And, you know, can we use them to keep the kids behind the barriers so the police officers can see if a kid's over there?
Chester, would you bring that
I will.
report back to us on how many
I
is
will.
available and what we
I'll
got?
do that.
Would you
I'll
like me
take
to
care
read
of
the
that.
title of this
Right
reservation?
now.
Resolution? Okay. A resolution of the City of Panama City Beach related to the annual Christmas parade, authorizing closure of portions of Pier Park Drive, Starfish Street, Bluefish Drive, Stingray Drive, and Powell Adams Road between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. on December 10th, 2016 for the parade, and authorizing temporary usage of a portion of Front Beach Road between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. on December 10th, 2016 to permit the parade, and providing an immediately effective date.
I would make a motion to approve that, please.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Solis?
Yes.
Councilman Rickert?
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange?
Yes.
Councilman Chester?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 1, resolution 1713.
A resolution of the City of Panama City Beach, Florida, approving the purchase of one 2017 F-150 crew cab 4x4 truck in the basic amount of $34,534, authorizing a budget amendment to fund this purchase and providing an immediately effective date.
Thank you, ma'am.
What happened to the, on August 21st or whenever it was, when it was totaled? I mean, we seem to be losing a lot of traffic.
Yeah, there was an accident with our rescue responding to a heart attack call right here at 79. Vehicles coming southbound on 79 at the intersection turned east. We didn't see our truck for the traffic that was there, and it went around and they clipped the back of it. It ended up totaling our truck.
I'll add that both trucks that were totaled had their lights on and were on.
Yeah, lights, sirens, whole 9 yards.
I mean,
Amazing.
I don't know how you can miss them.
Yeah.
They didn't.
No, they didn't miss them. You're right. I'll
Any
make
other
it-
questions?
I'll make a
Uh,
motion to,
This calls for a bid award. It doesn't say if the insurance for the person who hit that truck, if the money comes from them, or where does the money come from for this award?
They did make a payment. It doesn't cover the full cost of it because there is depreciation on the
Right.
truck, so
Okay.
we have that portion, and this is the balance of the money.
Thank you.
Are we swapping equipment, lights?
and it's costing us
The
$5,000.
things that can are
Right,
being
I saw,
swapped,
okay.
but there are other, and the install is still a cost.
Right.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Strange. Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Solis?
Yes.
Councilman Rickert?
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange?
Yes.
Councilman Chester?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 2, resolution 1718. Colony Club Road Mitigation Agreement.
A resolution of the City of Panama City Beach, Florida, approving a mitigation credit purchase agreement with the St. Joe Company in the amount of $45,375. This purchase agreement was contemplated in our original, our master project agreement with St. Joe. And now that we have final design plans and are near construction, the permit requires that we finalize this purchase and payment within 30 days of awarding that construction project. So,
Thank you very much.
here's Kelly.
This is ready for a motion.
If y'all don't have any more questions.
Motion. Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Solis?
Yes.
Councilman Rickert?
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange?
Yes.
Councilman Chester?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 4, resolution 1726, comprehensive traffic enforcement program, grant award and
We have-
budget amendment.
Number 3.
We have one more Colony Club resolution to actually award the project. 1717.
Resolution 1717, bid award, Colony Club Nautilus Connection project and budget amendment.
A resolution of the City of Panama City Beach, Florida, approving an agreement with Roberts and Roberts, Inc. in the amount of $691,887.15 for the construction of the Colony Club Nautilus Connection project, authorizing a budget amendment to fund this project and providing an immediately effective date.
Motion's ready for,
Motion to approve resolution 1717.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Councilman Solis?
Yes.
Councilman Riekert?
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange?
Yes.
Councilman Chester?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 4, resolution 1726, comprehensive traffic enforcement grant award and budget amendment number 4.
A resolution of the City of Panama City Beach, Florida, authorizing a budget amendment to provide for the receipt of $70,000 from the FDOT Comprehensive Traffic Enforcement Grant and providing an immediately effective date.
Motion, ready for a motion?
Motion to approve 1726 resolution.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Councilman Solis?
Yes.
Councilman Riekert?
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange?
Yes.
Councilman Chester?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. We'll remove item number 5, and item number 6 is the ordinance 1396, pending ordinance doctrine codification, first reading.
An ordinance of the City of Panama City Beach, Florida, amending the city's Code of Ordinances and Land Development Code, providing that permits shall not be issued when an amendment to one of those codes is pending before the City Council, which would make illegal or non-conforming the use or activity to be authorized by the permit, repealing ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an immediately effective date. This ordinance it codifies, in fact, a common law doctrine called the pending ordinance doctrine. We're formally adopting it into our land development code and our city code. We've relied on it in the past, but this is just making formal that reliance.
Thank you very much. This ordinance is ready for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Councilman Solis?
Yes.
Councilman Riekert?
Yes.
Councilman Chester?
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 7, ordinance 1397, annual update of capital improvement schedule, first reading.
An ordinance amending Ordinance 1143, known as the 2009 amended and restated City of Panama City Beach Comprehensive Growth Development Plan, amending the capital improvement element to update the schedule of capital improvements, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing that this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law.
Ordinance number 7 is available for motion.
Do we need to know anything from Mr. Leonard on this?
Do you?
I wouldn't mind having him
Get
walk
the
us through it for a paragraph, just in layman's terms, cut down 40 pages of reading.
Mel Leonard, Building and Planning Department. This is an annual requirement of the state, of all local governments in the state, to update the capital improvement schedule of the comprehensive plan. And it's only those items that a level of service is established in the comprehensive plan. It's not everything the city's going to do, but it's just those items for transportation. There's solid waste, parks and recreation. You've seen the list in there. And so it used to be submitted to the Department of Economic Opportunity for review. Governor Scott changed all that, and the legislature changed that a few years ago. So now it's just adopted by ordinance, and it's available if the state wants to look at it. And we every year we get a lot of help from Paul, Al, Kathy, Kelly in updating their portions of this, and that's the results of what you see here is, and we do this every time this year.
How often do we get checked, or do we?
We don't. It would be if there was probably the only time it would become something that the state would want to pull out and take a look at.
Right.
Is if we're submitting a comprehensive plan amendment, or we're changing something from residential to commercial.
Gotcha.
They probably would want to see if we have any in public investment or some funds, projects scheduled that would help mitigate the capacity, that it might have the impact on our capacity for whatever particular sector that would be, whether it be solid waste or recreation or transportation, any of those.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
This ordinance is available for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Councilman Solis?
Yes.
Councilman Riekert?
Yes.
Councilman Chester?
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 8, resolution 1712, Hampton Inn pedestrian bridge road closure.
A resolution of the City of Panama City Beach, Florida, related to the Hampton Inn's installation of a pedestrian bridge on Front Beach Road, authorizing temporary usage of Front Beach Road from the intersections of Powell Adams Road and Hills Road during the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. on Monday, December 12th and Tuesday, December 13th for the installation.
This item was pulled last meeting because I know they delivered information and to give people an opportunity to complain or give us some input. And the city manager has contacted the immediate properties around it. And to make, you know, sometimes people deliver things to your business and you don't ever see it. I just wanted to make sure that the owners of those affected areas had seen it, and they have. So this item is available for a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Solis?
Yes.
Councilman Riekert?
Yes.
Councilman Chester?
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. And I hope this didn't hold you fellows up. We just wanted to make sure the owners got their work. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your help with Ironman. Really appreciate last minute help.
Item number 9, approval of a new job description, full-time administrative support specialist, building and planning department. Mr. Leonard.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The last budget, you approved for there to be the funds to be in place for a part-time code enforcement assistant to help out with their efforts in ramping up code enforcement. And we currently have a part-time position in the building division right now that's occupied by a lady who's doing a very good job for the building division. What this would propose to do is to combine that. Instead of having 2 part-time positions, have 1 full-time position, and have one person spend half their time with the building division doing what they need doing, and then half the time being with the code enforcement division doing that. And by having the 1 full-time position instead of 2 part-time, I think we might gain some efficiencies, because as code enforcement stuff happens while they're working for the building division, they can actually handle it, and vice versa. There'll be a lot of flow between those 2 divisions, and I think we can have a more productive spot for that instead of having 2 part-time positions. So it's in line with what was approved for the budget, but I did need to create a new position to fill that particular slot.
So instead of 2 part-time people that have no benefits, we're gonna put 1 person in with full benefits.
If you approve of that, yes.
And there is a budget increase, but his budget has enough extra wiggle room to absorb the benefits.
Y'all have been working a lot harder at code enforcement, and I for one appreciate that a lot.
Well, thank you for saying that. We all appreciate that, and we all know there's a long way to go.
Okay, thank you. This item is available for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Solis?
Yes.
Councilman Riekert?
Yes.
Councilman Chester?
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 10 is general fund updates. Mario Ginsberg.
Mayor and council, Holly typically gives this, and she asked if she could go home instead of walk through this. And you've seen these enough to understand that we have eight major funds, and what she goes through typically is a little bit of detail. And we typically tend to focus mainly on the 1% sales tax, because a lot of these really don't have a whole lot of control. So unless you want specific attention to the local option fuel tax, the franchise fees, the utility tax fee, the local communication service tax, the building permits, state revenue sharing, or the half-cent sales tax, I'll jump to the half-cent. And on the half-cent sales tax, we enjoy the fact that on the one cent, on our merchant fee, we ended the year at 4.35%, considering that we had a rough year. We had some bad weather during September. We had loss of an event. We had loss of portions of spring break. But on average, we had a wonderful year, ending at 4.3 above prior year. And understand that the prior year we were 11.62% year over year. So I mean, we're above a stellar year, which is a great story. But I'd also like to report that for the month of September, when we did have a storm, or the tail end of the storm, and we did not have Gulf Coast jam, we were still up 8.5% for the month of September, which is wonderful that we continue to grow our off season. Basically, our off season is becoming pretty hot in that most of our shoulder season is seeing gains of double digits.
If I can make a comment on that, just first of all, I thought it was incredible that with Gulf Coast Jam canceling and a hurricane brewing 50 miles away, that we came out 8.5 above is outstanding. But just to kind of put into context a little bit of, because sometimes people do put information out or articles getting written based on reports and things, but and this is where I say sometimes you have to look at what's going on besides just an article that's written. But there was an article that was left on my desk last meeting when I was here, talking about a projected 40% loss. That article also stated that the Destra Matrix also stated that we should get about a 5.7% loss in September. We ended up with an 8.5 increase instead of a 5.7 loss. It was an 8.54. One more thing that's remarkable to me is the fact that September, the month of September, when you go to total key cash revenue, we basically, this year September, is outpaced 2015 March spring break, which was and this is the month of September, outpaced March of 2015 with one of the heaviest spring breaks that had been done until the culmination. But it just goes to show that our seasons are getting better, our months are getting better, and we are becoming more and more of a year-round destination, and we have a lot to be happy about. But I'm excited to see what October might bring, because it just seems like the beach was pretty packed in October. So
we're 2 years ago, March was clearly the third highest month of the year. In the last couple of years, March has been 4th and 5th, and that's just proof that we can grow the shoulder seasons.
Life is good in Panama City.
Very good.
All right, item number 11. Any more questions on that, Dave? Item number 11, Uber discussion.
Mayor, if I could pass out a little bit of information first.
Thank you.
I think you had already gotten.
Yeah, I got one.
A couple of you might have already received a copy of it, so if you just pass those on. Harrison Sale did a little bit of research a couple weeks back, and they basically pulled the ordinances that other municipalities already had in reference to web-based vehicles for hire. And what we have here is the Okaloosa Airport, Gainesville, Fort Myers, Lee County, Jacksonville, and Tallahassee. And what we developed was a little spreadsheet that shows what rules and regulations they have to specifically address the web-based vehicle for hire. And you'll notice that it's fairly consistent throughout, that just about all of them, if not all of them, have a ASE certification mechanic review the vehicle. Just about all of them either have a 3-year or a 7-year FDLE certification and background. Some also have nationwide background checks. There is also a sexual offender and predator check. All of them are consistent in requiring that. The MVR motor vehicle check, just about all of them have some level of that, some 3-year, some 5-year, some just are required. Next is driver identification permit card. All of them require that they have a card in the vehicle so that you can tell that you're driving with a vehicle that has been certified. Only a couple of them had driver hour restrictions, and that's where you only are allowed to to run the vehicle for 12 hours in a 24-hour period, so somebody can't pull an all-nighter and then pull a daytime shift and threaten the passenger in the car. And then vehicle stickers, all of them do include a vehicle sticker, so you can identify that you are actually going into a car that is for hire. The levels of insurance run the gamut, anywhere from $125,000 to $250,000 to $1 million. So there are different levels of insurance, and in most of those, the actual parent company can be the one that provides that insurance. So again, consistent on what level we would want to have would be one of those. None of them required a business registration or a license permit, so you wouldn't have to have a business license in the location. None of those in these locations did. We might choose to do so. Specific address, they all had to reference the location where the business was being run out of. So all of them did have that requirement with the exception of one. There is another meeting with the city managers and the county manager on November the 18th, which is next Friday. We will meet, and now that we have all this data accumulated, we'll have another powwow on that. And then my understanding is that Bay County is going to do a workshop, I believe, on December the 6th. I don't know what specific time that will be broadcast so that everyone can go to it, but Bay County is putting that together. So it is a work in progress. We are getting information from the taxi cab drivers. We are also doing information checks on Lyft, which is one of the providers of the web-based system, and Uber, which is the other local prominent web-based system. And we have found that those places do bring in these levels of insurance and checks and things like that, but the key is the municipality in all of these locations, we're looking for proof of that in some level, shape, and or form. So more to come on the December 8th is what I'll tell you, unless there are specific questions that you would like for me to answer.
Any particular discussion with the other cities when you went to the meeting? What were the discussions as to what they were looking for in the other cities?
Well, understand that I'm talking to city managers that do not have the right to make a final call, but in their view, they saw the need to have consistency with whatever vehicle for hire rules we already had, because otherwise there would be an inequality between the two fairly close to identical services.
But it does appear that having spent some time with the mayor of Lynn Haven as well, and heard her side of this for 45 minutes, is that Lynn Haven has a very forward attitude about going forward with this, and more than, say, Parker or Callaway, who said they probably, the city council people I was talking to with Parker and Callaway said they don't even know if they have any taxi cab companies there, so it's not relevant there. So what you're talking about really is the city of Lynn Haven, Panama City, and Panama City Beach primarily.
And Bay County, if they choose.
And Bay County, yes, thank you, sir. But the mayor of Lynn Haven seems to be leading the charge here, and and is willing to, when you talk to the city manager, what are they willing to compromise, might not be the right word. What are they willing to settle for versus taxi ordinances?
Whatever three of their council members direct them to do. That's really as far as I could tell you. Again, we're
Well, you
meeting.
mean you had that whole meeting and that was what came out of it, is whatever three
Councilman, I couldn't tell them any
I
more
would hope
myself.
we wouldn't go tell somebody what we were gonna do without talking to us.
I couldn't tell them what we're
don't
going
know
to
what
do.
we're going to do.
Well, maybe, I don't think their managers do either.
Well, I think the Lynn Haven manager does, because, I mean, I spent 45 minutes listening to the mayor of Lynn Haven, and I'll bet you he has too. And I just wondered if there was current information, like, you know, there, when you take this form, that with all this detail, it's called, can you tell me what Lynn Haven's willing to toss out on this that they want us to toss out?
I gave them this information today, so I do
Okay,
not know.
all right.
This information was available under 8 different ordinances when we last met, and I had just given it to them the day before. We have not discussed this information. It's a work in
Okay.
progress. We will have this information available for the next meeting, and we might be able to provide some direction. In the meantime, I don't know if Lynn Haven is adopting the ordinance that they have seen and just going on their own direction.
How about you, Counselor?
I know that they have had a first reading of an Uber ordinance that largely deferred to the county's requirements. With some exceptions for these network vehicle companies. I also know that Rob was amending and tightening up some of those restrictions, but I haven't seen that second draft, and I don't know if Lynn
So
Haven
they're,
has
Rob
had a
being
second reading.
their city attorney.
Yes, Rob Jackson.
And it's the
excuse me.
same firm as our city attorney, is drafting ordinances.
It's still in the draft form. It's still being amended as,
Okay,
as,
but
as
I'm-
data comes up.
Okay, no, I'm just saying, where are they? And because what the mayor of Lynn Haven wants to do, according to my conversation with her, and there were others present from, this was a League of Cities, Bay County Association League of Cities, so there was a representatives from Callaway, Lynn Haven, Panama City Beach, Panama City. So what they want to do is to draft an ordinance and have it apply to all the other cities. So if someone is registered to operate an Uber in Lynn Haven and they've cleared the hurdles they must in Lynn Haven, then they will be okay to operate in Panama City Beach. That's the last I've heard.
Only if we allow reciprocal.
We would have to adopt reciprocity, is what he's talking about. It
All right,
wouldn't be
when
an
you say
automatic thing.
reciprocity, what does that mean, to be sure we all understand it?
We would have to be willing to adopt what they've adopted.
Okay.
We don't have to.
Okay, no, that's why, I mean, this is a Uber discussion. Okay, so.
So you're telling me that Jacksonville doesn't do the background check on sexual offenders, predators? That's,
I'm not saying that it wasn't obviously clear in the resolution. I would venture to say that when they did the background check, again, not all ordinances are written as clearly as the ones that Amy might write, but in that one, they did do a background check. They just didn't specifically say that they did that particular type of check, but I'm sure they do their own version. This is more to show you that the predominance is to have some rules and regulations.
I was encouraged by reading this to show, and we double checked all these just to make sure all these places do have active Uber going. And so they are running in all these different large cities and have done some extra things above and beyond what they might have done in the nation, so that's encouraging. Uber is at a point where it's across the country. We need to start moving in the direction of what most people are used to using when they travel. I would hope that we move on this pretty quickly to start getting something going with it and be as least restrictive as possible to where we're not coming up with reasons not to have it, and that we're just, we are looking out for ourselves, that we do have, obviously background checks are very important, insurance is very important, and a vehicle check is very important. I would just hope that we don't start getting into all these other things about driving hour restrictions and all these other things that some other places are putting in their list, because if not, we'll just get to a point where we make it so restrictive nobody's going to want to do it, because it is it's the way of the world, the way it's going, and
Why it's a question out here, my understanding is Uber a car for hire, or as Uber puts it, ride sharing? And that if they're a car for hire, then they must meet the same requirements that Justin Wilson's cabs and shuttles have to meet. And so that, becomes in the eye of the beholder. Uber says we are ride sharing, and so far what we've heard out here, and this is the discussion to talk about it, is they're a car for hire. They just are using a different method to hire the car.
The predominant of these rules basically take the vehicle for hire and add the web-based rideshare, the web-based vehicle for hire. You call it 7 different things.
Yes.
They're basically qualifying them as a vehicle for hire, and then have some little bit more leeway.
I've used Uber all over the country and obviously never had a problem, but I do think that they should have to have the same checks and balances as the taxis. I mean, because some of the news media been pretty bad. I'm all about free enterprise, you know, and
Right.
bring them in, they're cheaper sometimes, but, I think that they should have to have, regardless, I mean, I pay for every Uber ride I've gotten, so it's not like ride sharing, it's,
Right.
you're paying, it's for profit.
And you were the only one, you and your party were the only ones in the
Yeah,
car.
correct.
You didn't
Yeah.
like share it with Mr. and Miss Smith.
No.
Okay.
With Donald.
But, I mean, you also have to realize there's some, because of the way they're using technology, sometimes some of these things aren't, whereas, you know, the old taxi cab ID in the cab, you know, the bottom line, when you're using Uber, the reason you don't need it is because you've got that guy's picture on your phone. You're able to walk right up and see, this is my guy, and you know you're going to the right guy. That's what I'm saying. So there's some things that technology is taking care of that we don't need to, you know, as far as like, also once again, if this city doesn't collect anything when it comes to cab taxes or anything of it, so I don't see why there would be a registration portion. I don't know. I don't know.
I think,
Anybody-
Go ahead.
well, I think it's just as, I mean, as good as a service as Councilwoman Strange has said Uber has been for her situation. I think it's, especially in our destination, Panama City Beach, and what we do for a living here, and our bread and butter is to be able to hold up your hand and flag down a taxi is very important, especially people coming out of clubs that we don't want driving, and some of them might have called in advance, but there are 20 cabs lined up in front of a nightclub that's emptying out, and I still think there's certainly our destination more than some, a place for that. Like New York City, stand on the curb and wave down a cab.
I have the app on my phone, I just hit it and they, you know,
Yep.
Well, it's not only that. The beauty of it is that you also know what you're going to be paying for that ride. So you're an informed consumer when you know. And I hate to say this, and I know there's different cab companies and things, but I personally know people that have made that call from the airport and they charge $50 to get that ride from the airport. You know, at least this way, they're seeing it's going to cost them $25 or $30. They know, and they're an informed consumer, and there's some competition there at a reasonable rate. Now, that's not to say that Uber doesn't have some issues when they also increase due to traffic and all that, but at least you know ahead of time. You know what you're getting into. So
I know we can't forget about the airport either. The airport.
The air,
Oh, that's good.
I'll add, the airport has been invited to all of these
Okay.
meetings. And they have received all of the same information.
Okay, good.
I, in looking through this stuff yesterday, today when I got it, I don't see anything we're asking for that these other people aren't already getting. And I don't see the difference in them telling us they're not gonna follow our rules when they're following somebody else. I understand it's nice to know what you're getting paid, and it's nice to do these others, and it's nice that it works everywhere. And it's nice that there's a picture in there that on your phone. But if that guy on the phone hasn't had a background check, you don't, I mean, I still think when we, and I think our area is different. I've said this before, we've got people down here that are drinking and stepping out of clubs. We have a lot of single people down here stepping out and getting somebody. And if we're gonna have rules for one, we ought to have it for the other, or either cancel both of them. And I asked council to check and see if we had any liability there, because I genuinely don't care, other than the fact that I don't believe there's any other business that we have out here that we don't know who they are and what they are. I have to have a business license, that's what we do. And I think the city has to know who's in there.
Wouldn't this be a county-wide, I mean, if you're coming from Lynn Haven to here, the airport to here, I mean, we need
The
to
way
have
the
it.
ordinances are written, and I wish you'd bring that back sometime.
Certainly.
Panama City,
Keep in mind, right now, we really only have 2 municipalities that truly have vehicle for hire ordinances. It's Panama City
Right.
and Panama City Beach. We're the only 2 that have those rules and regulations, because Lynn Haven doesn't have a vehicle
They
for hire
don't have
business.
to undo anything then.
That's correct.
If we change
True.
car for hire for Uber, then vehicle for hire, then we need to look at Justin and his cabs and not make it unfair to them.
That's why we're doing this, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But what Bay County has is, Bay County does say, if the municipality has the rule, that they adopt that same rule. So Bay County has the mimic of ours, not the other way around.
Right.
Part of me, since one person wasn't at the meeting, we put all the responsibility on that one person.
That's what happened.
And we didn't have that ability because he's not willing to take on that responsibility. So I think it's still going to fall back on the municipalities that have the majority of vehicles for hire at this point in time.
But if we went county-wide, that would actually include the airport.
Well, the airport is going to adopt its own rule. I cannot,
Separate
again,
entity.
keep in mind, everybody's going to want to either adopt or say that if someone hires a vehicle in Panama City, they can drop off here with absolute no problem and not follow our rules.
Right.
It's the pickup location. Wherever they pick up is where the rules
Right.
emanate from.
So they could go through the sheriff's department and do it countywide, and we'd all be good to go.
If the county chose to do that. I'm not sure that the county's
Wanting to do
choosing
that?
to do that.
And the mayor of Lynn Haven has met with the county sheriff, and they are talking about the unincorporated parts of Bay County, which is 2/3 of our island
Right.
out here. So, I mean,
And
it sounds like to me that the criminal check is and the press reported that he is a stumbling point for the sheriff. He wants to be sure, and he would prefer fingerprints for everyone with car for hire because it'd be
We did
easier.
call FDLE in the past couple of weeks to verify what can and cannot be done, and pretty much the only thing that can be done is a statewide search through FDLE for $25. We cannot do a nationwide fingerprint unless there's cause.
Okay.
All right, after your meeting, are you gonna bring us back an update?
Most certainly.
All right.
Now, I am concerned, having spent that time, it's a discussion there, Chester, it's a discussion. I'm concerned, having spent that time with the mayor of Lynn Haven, that she is absolutely hell-bent to make this happen. And good for her, that's certainly, it's her city, and they can do what they please, and we wish them well. But the fact that they don't have any vehicle for hire ordinances mean they are starting with a clean slate. We are not. And I want to be sure that the people who have in the taxi cab business here are not asked to compromise something. If Uber can do their own background checks on their drivers, then Justin ought to be able to do his on his drivers. So that's to me where I get hung up. And I'm not anti-Uber because I think it's a wave of the future, no doubt about it. And all of us, including the taxi cabs, might have to learn to figure out how to, do business with it, because I still think the cab companies have the advantage of being, especially in our area, of being hailed and on short notice get rides that Uber's not going to get.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Item 12, public comments. Gives you the opportunity to speak about anything, whether it's on the agenda or not. And please approach the podium when your name's called. 3 minutes, name and address. Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Thompson.
Mr. Thompson.
Bernie Thompson, 8317 Front Beach Road. First of all, I want to say thank you, Councilman Solis, again, for seeing that consumers, being grown-ups, we can make our own arrangements with whomever we choose to drive us home. We really don't need you guys with your fingers in everything we do and beg your permission to have everything you do. And Beach Boy Cabs does a great job. I've used them. I know Justin. It's a fantastic company. But I want to ask you a couple of things. And to Council Amy, if somebody were to write on a piece of paper and pass a note to another council member, would that note, would that handwritten note be available to the public, or would that be away from the public?
Generally, it would be a public record if it had to do with public business. If it said going dinner at 7, that would not necessarily be.
But for us to know what it is, pretty much generally, is it safe to say if somebody writes a note and hands it, it's available for
They're
public view?
communicating knowledge during a public meeting, generally.
Does the same hold true with electronic devices? I mean, we've been talking about technology, and I noticed that many of you have, 3 of 5 council members have an electronic device open, and you often are on your phone. Isn't that what is your position? Isn't that possibly available for public view, or can you use your own devices during these meetings and say we're not allowed to see what you guys are saying?
If the record is created to communicate public business, transmit knowledge of public business, then yes, it's a public record. If it's a strictly private message, if they're texting their husbands, their wives,
how do the
their
people
spouses,
know?
I don't know.
We just
I
trust the
can't
government?
I can't answer that question for you.
I think generally in the past it's been a matter of public record, which is why nobody does that. And there's a lot of communication going on, and I'm just saying that we'd like to see it. Also want to talk about rules. This is a city manager run city. Mario's the boss. Mario is the boss of the civil servants, of the police force, I believe, and the code enforcement, not you guys. And I have a question for you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I figured you couldn't. Have you ever directed anybody, police, code enforcement, to do anything? Have you ever directed police or code enforcement to check up on a business or on a neighborhood?
I don't believe I've ever asked them to check on a business. I'll answer when you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't want to
And the reason I say that, sir, is because the way the city charter is set up, and we all got to follow the rules. This is a big deal around here. You guys are prohibited, you 5, from giving directions to the employees. That's Mario's job. It's a city manager run city, and if you do give directions to code enforcement directly or to the police directly, that's a violation of city charter. Can't do that. So I'd like to ask you as well, Mr. Mayor, when you drove around with Mel Leonard, you talked about driving around with Mel Leonard and talking about code enforcement and maybe pointing out neighborhoods. Was Mario with you too at that time, or was it just you and Mel Leonard? And I'd like to ask you if you directed Mel Leonard to have code enforcement target certain neighborhoods. And then finally, I'm gonna honor that to the minute. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Just hit all the buttons.
Anybody else?
No, sir.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments? Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to speak to Mr. Rickard about the parades and that sort of thing. There's a lot of candy that's been thrown from the vehicles toward the children for them to run out. It may be a good idea just have the clowns or whoever's throwing out the candy or somebody walk through the sidewalks and pass out candy before the parade starts. That will certainly cut down a lot of expense. Everybody can just give their candy and walk throughout the children and give their candy and walk along, and then let the parade be something everybody looks at instead of throwing something for children to run toward it. That would save a lot of money and a lot of children at risk. Thank you for caring. Thank you.
Anyone else? That ends that section of the comment. I'll answer the questions that were asked of me. Is have I ever directed anybody to check on specific businesses? No. Have I ever given direction to Mr. Leonard? Yes. And I asked permission from Mario. He was going at a meeting, and I asked him if he minded. I talked to Mel so I could understand the problems we were having with code enforcement and show him things that I thought was there to see if there are new rules that we need to pass to allow them to do a better job. I think that is my job. And for anyone to assume that I don't understand what the charter says or what the sunshine law is ignorant, because I do. and I'm very careful to stay within those lines. I asked the building department one time to check on, with permission of Mr. Ginsburg, to go to Mr. Leonard.
Yes, sir.
And at that time, Mr. Leonard called in a member of the building department, and I talked to him about it. I asked him in front of Mr. Leonard if there was any way that we could make this work somehow or another with some kind of rules, because the condo association wanted to make a gym area and something else. I don't remember what it was in the bottom. And they informed me that it would cancel the insurance on the rest of the building. I said I understood, and I let it go at that. Sometimes we actually do know what we're doing. I know that is amazing. And sometimes I wonder if anybody else does when they ask some of these questions. I've been at this 16 years. I have picked up a little bit of knowledge of what my job is. And the first thing I'm supposed to do is do what the residents of the city ask me to do. And I try to do that every day. Is there anybody, let's see, next we'll have the attorney's report.
At your next meeting, we've scheduled lots of public hearings for various items, first readings, second readings of various ordinances, and your nuisance abatement expansion resolution. So that may be a long meeting. There's lots of public hearings. Can't be avoided. One of those public hearings will be the first reading of a low-speed vehicle regulation. We met with the industry last Friday. The planning board will be considering that ordinance and weighing in with their comments on Monday. So we'll be making some revisions early next week once we receive those comments to get you an early draft to begin reviewing before that December meeting.
To the members up here of the council, they have met with those businesses, and we have, and they're fixing to take it to the planning board for their thing. Is there anything that y'all feel we need them to carry to the planning board, or she's talking about having an ordinance ready for us to pass, based, I assume, on what you and the businesses want.
And
That has nothing to do with what we're making.
we will get that draft to
I'm a little
you.
concerned about that.
It's based on your direction to us to regulate this industry before we were overwhelmed by the volume and capacity on our streets. So we have met with the industry to sort of come up with a recommendation we feel like we, the city, and they, the industry, can all live with. Yes, I mean, you still have the opportunity to weigh in and modify those recommendations,
But I would like to see a list or a paper of what they have said they can live with, if that's what they're saying that is.
Okay.
We'll get,
We're the ones that's gotta catch the grief for whatever it is.
Yeah, and I have a lot of concern about them getting strain onto Back Beach Road. I mean, it's just.
That's against the law.
it's against the law already,
But
period.
they're out there all the time, you know, so I don't know, I don't know how to.
Gotta enforce it.
Yeah, I just don't, you know, unless we have like a GPS mounted on it and they hit that road.
You can't do that. You can do that. But that's being pretty obtrusive.
That's my concern, because I've seen them on Back Beach Road, you know, safety for the visitors and for the residents that are traveling.
Back Beach and Middle Beach, they need,
Yeah.
we'll have to, like I said, that's stepped up enforcement, we've gotta step up enforcement on it.
If you have specific concerns, please don't hesitate to call me or call Mario, and I'd be happy to go through the draft ordinance we have. If you'd like to know what it is before Monday, but I am hoping after Monday's meeting, you know, early Tuesday, we can finalize it and get you a draft immediately for your review.
Sure.
I don't want you to be surprised by it in December, but it is only a first reading and you're not bound to it. You can still make revisions before the second reading.
Well, I just didn't know whether it was legal for us to look at it
Yeah.
and make recommendations to y'all before that changes the need, then that's
Yeah.
holy, sort of, you know, and I wanna make sure that
You can review the draft and contact me directly with, I don't like this, I want to make these changes, and maybe I can, maybe I can't. I mean,
Yeah, I would hope that
But I
if
can
there's
certainly
something
have
so
them in
out of
mind.
whack, that we would all make comments to
Sure.
Mario to let him know that we're not happy with what
Yeah,
we're seeing.
I'd like for all of us to be made aware before we get in a meeting and see something.
If there's substantial disagreement on a particular issue, I can put it in brackets. That's generally how I put it in form.
Okay.
If there's something that requires your attention to sort of fill in that blank or finalize it, to highlight that fact for your discussion at that first reading.
And, and we have stressed it to the businesses that this is a draft and that we have come up with a number. And if the council chooses to change that number up, down, or take it out altogether, that this is just a draft to bring to the council for them to consider.
Okay, thank you. City manager's report.
Mayor, I have a whole list of things. They're all fairly minor things, but if you'll bear with me. There's a notice to request for stormwater engineering services. We've got a bid out to do that service again. We have a notice to bid for soil conditioning chemicals at Parks and Recreation. We still have the Carpenter 1 and Carpenter 2 position. We still have the police officer and the police network engineer position out. We have a recreational coordinator to refill. We have a senior administrative support specialist for civil service. I would like to announce that Carrie was promoted to our new payroll person, and now her position is vacant, so we're advertising for that. And then we still have a senior staff accountant position available. We also have bird watching at the Conservation Park Saturday, November 12th, starting at 7:30 in the morning, hosted by Bay County Audubon Society. We have the Miracle League Veterans Game November 16th at 10 a.m. at Frank Baum Park. Flyers are on the table. Bay County Gun Range grand opening November 19th at 9 a.m. out at Steelfield Road. Flyers on the table are also available. Beach Home for the holidays, November 25th and 26th at Pier Park. Portions of West Pier Park Drive will be closed at 3 o'clock to 7 p.m. to provide safety for pedestrian access at Aaron Besson Park. We typically do that whenever we have a concert at Aaron Besson Park. We don't typically do a road closure permit for that because it's just that small section. And then the annual Christmas tree lighting is December 5th at Frank Brown Park at 6:30 p.m. Santa food. Flyers are also available on the table. And these are the flyers. You'll find them on the table. Lastly, DOT put out a notice that they're kicking off a couple of projects. The most current one will start on November 14th. It will be at the intersection of Back Beach Road and Richard Jackson. And what they'll be doing is there's currently a single turn lane to the north and a single turn lane to the south off of Back Beach Road. Those will be converted into a double turn lane to the north and a double turn lane to the south. DOT is also working on the actual connection of the Bay Parkway, old name was the Loop Road, to 79. They have that final connection as part of their work project, and the street light, the traffic light that goes in that location. They currently understand that we have serious requests that they be complete with that job before spring break. We have met with them several times, and we met with them as recently as yesterday to make sure that they can expedite that project if at all possible. And then lastly, DOT is also working on the intersection of 79 and Back Beach Road to do the dual turn lane to the north. That project will kick off probably in January. It is a longer project, however, all of that work will happen after hours. It will not happen during our peak hours. So those are the three big FDOT projects that are underway.
And that'll be done by spring break, by March?
That last one will not be done anywhere near spring break or March. It'll be done sometime in probably even, I hope before summer starts. But I do not control that schedule. That is a DOT schedule. And that wraps it up for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The council comments? Mr.
Thank you, sir. I just would be sure that people understand that when somebody, a citizen, calls a member of this board, is that there seem to be two ways that cities operate under the city manager system. Is that the city manager, that the council is absolutely forbidden to talk to anybody on the staff. You go straight to the city manager. it's my understanding that most of those people who demand that, most of those towns have 2 or 3 assistant city managers to handle all that. But if a citizen calls me, like on the vehicle situation, on the low-speed vehicle, someone that has called me, I have the permission of the city manager, as I think we all do, to speak with, but not supersede the city manager, but to speak with the person I called. I didn't know the answer to the question, so I simply said, you know, I'll get you an answer. So there's no reason to go to the city manager with that when I can go to Mr. Leonard or someone in his department or the police department and get an answer and get it back to this person promptly. We could hire at least one, I think more than one assistant city manager, and we could turn over every one of those to them. But I think the fact that people feel like that they can call their council person is important as well. I don't think that in any way violates the city charter because we have permission from the city manager, whose responsibility it is to do those things or to delegate those things done, and can and is in these cases delegating to the council. Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Bill?
I'm excited about the Colony Club Road. It's long overdue. And thank you. Ready for it.
I'm excited about the
I know.
presidential election.
Waiting for that call.
Yeah. Call me, please.
Josie's not here next week. She will be on staff.
Not the cabinet.
She's gonna be really disappointed. If you need a letter from any of us.
I know, but it's like, don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out.
I already told her she's going to be appointed ambassador to Panama City Beach. That's her new title. Just a couple of things. Just what John was talking about, and they were talking about also. You know, for us to do our jobs, there's a big difference between giving direction and asking questions. The way we're able to do our jobs and answer citizens is because we have to depend on calling people and asking questions. And I'm guilty of doing that a lot, where I have to ask questions. You know, when's this going to get done? How that's going to get done? But you know, when it's time to give direction, it's always going to be through the city manager. Like I said, that's who they work for. But we couldn't do our job without being able to constantly be in contact with the different people that know what's going on in the city. Because one person, it is tough for them to do it all. Just in honor of Veterans Day tomorrow, I want to thank everybody, all the veterans that are here in the chamber, those on the council that have served our country. Proudly, we appreciate what you've done. Not only did I have 2 brothers that both volunteered, one in the Army, one in the Marines, during the Vietnam era, both volunteers. So it's important that we remember them. We've got the Veterans Day Parade tomorrow in Panama City. I have the honor of being a chauffeur to a World War II vet tomorrow, and it's an extreme honor to be able to do that and show our appreciation for those that have done so much for us, because without them we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now. So. Lastly, just if you didn't get a chance last year to be involved in that Beach for the Holidays, wonderful thing. First year was last year. I was able to participate in those. Just a lot of fun. The things that they put together out there. I think it's actually going to be something that's going to grow and grow every year. If you haven't had an opportunity to take your family out there, it's usually 2 nights of concerts, fireworks on that second night, some s'mores, hot chocolate, a lot of good stuff going on out there. So. If you're here, you really want to take advantage of that. We were lucky enough to be home for the holidays last year. Usually we're out of town for Thanksgiving, so we witnessed it firsthand, and it was just a wonderful program. So, yeah.
And decorating for the holidays, Christmas, and turn them on right after Thanksgiving. We'll make that event grow too. I hope people do that. I have been surprisingly quiet for 6 months. We've been here long enough that we need to do a few things that we've all talked about, I think. I'd like to know where we are on the Front Beach assessment, the CRA assessment that I think we're obligated to do. I don't see any way around that, and we're fixing to start our second project and have no money set aside for maintenance on any of it. And I think that the is almost criminal of us, since the law says we're supposed to have it. And I'd like for us to get on that as quick as possible, get us enough information where we can make some decisions.
You will be approving a contract at your next meeting with the group that will actually be doing the modeling, that will develop those assessment costs and those O&M costs.
Thank you very much.
But may I ask a question or
Sure.
comment on that? Is that the current funds in the CRA funds, and as they're coming in, have been used to do the maintenance, which is roughly $250,000 a year, is that correct? Is about what it's been, maybe a little more. So
less,
it's not,
but I think it's less.
though it has taken, a sizable piece of money out of that fund, it has not kept us from going forward on any projects as much as we have kept ourselves from going forward on any project.
Sure, but if as this grows, and we keep taking money out of it to maintain it, it slows the progress that makes.
But I will caution you, having had experience in the category, that when you talk about assessments for a piece of road that's going to benefit only a certain area, that we have met with resistance of that in the past for other projects being done as we speak.
And that's why there's no money in there, as by law we're supposed to have.
No, I'm not talking about CRA. I'm talking about the Colony Club Road. There was no.
I
the
understand.
Previous administration, not
I understand.
people here, is that there was no. Is that we were told that the people there benefiting from that wouldn't like to do that. So I wonder what we tell our friends on Front Beach Road when we bring this up, because the precedent has been set, and not opposed to it. I live on Front Beach Road.
Sure.
Pardon the interruption.
No, that's
Just-
fine. You're correct, but by law, we're mandated to do this.
But we're not.
And to Mike's point, the Front Beach Road CRA plan has always contemplated an assessment program on
Right,
Front Beach Road.
it has, from the very beginning, back in what?
2002.
2002. So, but we are, I don't think we're breaking the law by using CRA funds currently to do that maintenance. It mandates that the CRA will pay its own maintenance cost, and we're doing that, correct?
Yes, but it does say that there will be an assessment to maintain it. This CRA has a timeline that can be extended, but it might not can. Remember, George is going to the state, so it may not get extended.
Right.
And by law, when that money quits, we should have had money banked by the rules set up in the CRA, I believe. We're supposed to have a funding mechanism to maintain the roads we're building. And with us taking over these roads from the state, we're certainly going to have to.
Absolutely.
I believe, anyway.
Does it define, may I ask Counselor over there, does it define the area of assessment?
It defines the entire area of the Front Beach Road community redevelopment area. I would be surprised if we exempted any particular area from assessments.
But only within the area of the CRA.
Right.
Area, you can do it that way, and I'm not opposed to doing it that way. And I also would have to pay in that more, like you would. But
So you're saying areas of the CRA which have not been completed would also be included?
Potentially.
You could do it that way.
Okay.
And what it also does is it says in there that any member of the city that benefits from it. Get this right, John. I am not saying that every member of Panama City Beach should have to pay an assessment.
Yep.
But the rules do say that anybody that benefits from the project,
If they travel down the road, if they.
or if they live here, property values go up because of the view. You know what I mean?
And that was my question.
It's a widespread deal.
Yes, sir.
I'm not
The plan.
saying that. That's what it says.
The plan itself doesn't get into those specifics. Once you get ready once we finish our O&M study and you're in a position to proceed with an assessment, should you want to, you'll be able to determine the methodology.
So
to
the
whom it's
CRA
assessed and
board
how.
could determine those particulars then?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it may be a different assessment for each right-of-way project, and there are lots of variables here. But I don't have any of those answers for you now.
Okay, thank you.
So the CRA area would be from Front Beach Road to Back Beach Road, so it's gonna tax everyone, or assess everyone.
Properties fronting on certain roads that are in the CRA. It's not actually everybody.
On Jackson.
It is a large area, but it's not everyone in the city.
Connector roads and some piece, and some, look at the CRA map, it shows an actual perimeter.
It would
And
be
that
very
perimeter goes
easy
up and
to-
down.
To exempt residential or exempt neighborhoods, because property values are gonna increase along Front Beach Road for even residential. I mean, it's gonna,
If they are receiving a benefit, I don't know that you can exempt them, but you can have a very nominal assessment if that benefit is low or nominal across the board.
there were two different things on the election that are gonna have impact on us this year. And I think we need to set up workshop for us to figure out what we're gonna do with half cent, our portion of it. Set priorities in there, things we need to do. And I think this, the way it's written by law, was you set up boards and, or
An oversight committee.
do any way you wanna
Oversight
do
committee.
it.
Mhm.
But I think this is something that we ought to do.
Well, we have to do it, right?
Well, you can set up a board to come back with things, but, I believe the way it was written, if I've talked to some other cities and some of them are, you could give it to the planning board, you could give it to anybody or create a new board to do this, but I think since this is new, I think it's something we ought to have a workshop and decide the priorities we think are in this and give, I think we're looking at 1.5, 1.8 million, somewhere in there. And let's see what we think everybody's got a different district, and, let you come up with some stuff for us to do. And the, marijuana, medical marijuana. I've had people ask me what we're gonna do about it, what, are we gonna, how we're gonna zone it, what areas, land use are we gonna do? I think that's something that we need to talk about and see what we're gonna do. I called the supervisor of elections, cause I had a couple of people tell me that they'd rather them be stuck back somewhere, head out somewhere. 75% of the people on this island voted for this. So, y'all can, I may not have been one of those 75%, but regardless of what some people vote, we do try to do what the majority of the people say. And, so I think we ought to, in that workshop, have those two new things that we've got to deal with. Let's have some open discussion about it and see what we want to do. Everybody okay with that?
Yes, sir.
If you'd check with everybody's schedules, Ms. Joe, and get us something going.
By just a ballpark, sometime in November, sometime in December, or
Whenever it's holidays, I know people are gonna be out, but I think it's something we need to get some direction in.
Maybe early December? Or
Yeah,
That'd
before
be
the first
fine
of
with
the
me.
year. Yeah, before the first of the year.
I think we need, because people are gonna be coming to us and asking us what we're doing, and I think we need to be working on that pretty quick. As quick as we can. We have talked about, the aesthetic things for us to do, and we have an ordinance now along Front Beach Road and on commercial property that you have to bury power lines from the road. I wish that we could ask staff to look at drawing us something up in the neighborhoods. We know they can't come in and do all of them, and people shouldn't have to pay the money to catch up where we are, but if you'll drive in most of those neighborhoods around here, one of the most eyesores I think you can see is they'll put a new fiber optics or something, and they'll leave 4 lines up there that they took down. I rode through your neighborhood the other day, and you've got it as bad as mine or any other one. And I wish we could come up with, from the pole, you go underground to people's houses. I called the mayor over in Mexico Beach, the ex-mayor, and he said the way they did it over there, so it doesn't hinder people from getting service quick. The people come out and lay the lines in the yards or wherever they're gonna do it, and then they've got a crew that comes back and puts it underground for them. But I would like to see if it's legal. Before they can put a line in, they have to take down lines that are already up. I know whenever they've changed from one kind of cable to another, they just put another one up. I've got 4 or 5 lines coming in my house. I mean, it's just, they'll have to clean up before they can straighten up something. And what's there is grandfathered, and we don't cost anybody anything, but is over a period of time, I think will make it look better.
Okay.
Okay? Any other comments? We adjourn.